Well, it turns out it's not just the far left who are open to embracing socialism. A new Fox News poll shows more than a third of Americans believe a move away from capitalism towards socialism would be a good thing, with nearly two-thirds of those under 30 giving socialism a thumbs up. What is this all about? We've got to explain this, folks. Joining me now is the editor-at-large for Reason Magazine, Matt Welch. From American University, Capri Cafaro is here, and the spokeswoman for the RNC, Kayleigh McEnany. It's great to have you all here.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Matt, I want to start with you on this. What do you make of this shift? And it's a younger group that's answering yes to these polls, that they think socialism would work in this country.
I think part of it is that they don't know what the word socialism means. Oftentimes in these polls over the last 5 years where we've seen this growth happen, if you ask follow-up questions like, do you support nationalizing companies and the workers controlling the means of production? Like, oh my God, no. What are you talking about? So because they grew up in an era when the Cold War was over and we no longer have those fights anymore, the Republican Party isn't making the fundamental free enterprise argument in the same way that they were in 1980s and 1970s. Because of that, the word has lost its toxicity, right? So they're thinking about it in terms of how Scandinavia, or they think Scandinavia works. They have that inaccurate more than they think about how Venezuela ran itself into the ground.
Yeah, what happens to an actual economy, Capri, when you have a socialist? I mean, look, a socialist dictator in the case of Venezuela.
Right.
The point was made earlier on the show. That's a true fact. But, you know, at the same time, look at Ocasio-Cortez, this young Democrat here that unseated a very well-known House Democrat, one of the leaders of the party,
Right.
on a platform of socialism.
Well, and I think you have to take a look at what that district looks like. I mean, we're talking about the Bronx. We're talking about, communities in New York City where, the quote-unquote democratic socialist movement has been very well organized since Bernie Sanders, ran in the primary back in 2016. But I agree with you. I really think that a lot of people don't actually know what socialism really means. I think they see it as something, they see two things. Number one, I think that there's this pervasive feeling, particularly amongst millennials, that somehow capitalism has failed them, that they have all these degrees that they've paid so much money for, and they're in debt, and they're working low-wage jobs, and so somehow socialism is the answer because it's free money, and that's not what it is.
No, I think that you make a good point, because these are millennials and a little bit of the younger generation underneath them that we're talking about. But, Kayleigh, at the same time, I'm wondering what the Republican Party does with all of this, especially as we get closer to November, because you've got this kind of extreme socialist agenda that's happening in the Democrat Party, but you've also got President Trump, whose approval ratings have actually changed. And I don't want to go into the whys of that, but that's something that's going to affect the midterms. His approval rating, 53% say that he's not doing a good job. Only 45% say that he is.
Well, we believe his approval numbers are far higher than that. We do believe in the so-called hidden Trump voter that didn't show up in the Wisconsin polling, the Michigan polling, the Pennsylvania polling, but nevertheless did turn out and deliver states we haven't seen since the 1980s. So we are confident the president is a plus on the campaign trail. But with regard to the socialism point, I want to make the point that I agree with both Capri and Matt. They make really excellent points. Matt, in particular, I can tell you our chairwoman is very passionate about getting a free enterprise argument out there, combating the socialism strain we are seeing among millennials. I was on a college campus, a law school campus, not too long ago, and I can tell you that these college campuses are becoming hubs for radicalism, and it might sound great in the faculty lounge to talk about socialism, but it doesn't work in practice, and we have to articulate that argument to millennials and tell them why it doesn't work in Denmark and Sweden, and make sure they don't fall into this Bernie Sanders trap.
But Matt, when you talk about what happens in college campuses and that kind of that radicalism, I mean, look, it happened during the Vietnam War. It happened again in the 70s. It's just that it wasn't an economic radicalism. That's what we're seeing now. I think that's what's so interesting and different.
It's curious that over the last 10 years, the issues that really lit a fire under progressives has tended more towards economic policy. You see it in cities like Seattle. You see it in parts of Manhattan and elsewhere. And as a civil libertarian, that bums me out, because they could be advocating for ending the drug war, which I happen to agree with them on, and some other issues like that. But it's not where the beating heart is right now. And it's sad, too, that we have a president who's running on tariffs, and trade wars are easy to win. So we don't really have, the beating heart of someone who's every day making the case for capitalism in a way that.
Well, you know what?
But I was going to say, President Trump he's owned this recovery. He has said that this is his recovery, his economy, and that the markets are because of him. But go ahead.
Well, and that's fine. I mean, he's certainly contributed to it, and you can make the argument that it started a while ago. We'll leave that.
Yeah.
But I think that a couple things. Number one, the reason why I think millennials have taken to this idea so much is because we are in a culture of instant gratification, and so I think that there's this concept that people just want stuff and not necessarily have to work for it. And that is a systemic problem that we have to deal with. I can tell you from my Democrats in a place like Ohio, the best ticket to economic justice is a job. People do not want handouts. They want the opportunity to work. And Democrats need to seize on that more than they need to seize on socialism.
They probably do, Kayleigh, because another one of the pieces I found interesting on the one that came to the economy question with this latest Fox News poll that we got, it was a very expansive poll, was the condition of the economy. And when Democrats talked about the condition of the economy, they say 30%. The 30% think it's good. The Republicans, though, 73%. I mean, if you're a true conservative, fiscal conservative Republican even, you are going to run on the basis of the economy and jobs and free markets and, frankly, keeping the government out of your backyard.
There's no doubt about it. And, this economy is roaring. That's thanks to President Trump. He reversed the disastrous Obama-era policies, and now we are in a place where we are at 4.1% growth in the last quarter, and he has a majority support when it comes to the economy. So I think there's no denying that the economy is going well, but this president uniquely had the ability to communicate with blue-collar workers, which is something no president since Ronald Reagan has been able to do in our party. This president made us the party of blue-collar workers. The Democrats used to essentially own that vote, but I really think that it's become beneficial for factory workers to vote for the Republican Party, and they're seeing it.
I'm still thinking of the head spinning that happened in the 2016 presidential election when Trump won Michigan. There was jaws dropping everywhere. But again, Hillary Clinton ignored the state. So really quick, Matt, I do want to pick up on one other thing that you said, though, is this younger generation, this move towards socialism. What about those that are more on the libertarian side? Is there a younger undercurrent to that group of our
For
nation?
sure. We saw this
voters?
in the polling in 2016 for Gary Johnson and in libertarian candidates, including Gary Johnson now in the Senate in New Mexico, disproportionately doing well among younger voters. Younger voters, more than any other cohort, do not want to belong to one of these old parties. They don't feel like it speaks for them anymore. Libertarianism is completely on the rise on college campuses and generally among the younger population.
Capri, final thought?
I think that the libertarian stuff is pretty interesting, but I hope that we get past all of this because, again, we are built on a strong economy and people want to work. So socialism is not part of that.
Where's
equation.
Judge Napolitano when you need him to talk about libertarianism? Guys, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It was great to have you all. It's a really fascinating discussion on what's happening in our country right now.